It's International Beer Day this month, and you know what they say? It's 5 o'clock somewhere, so it's time for a pint. Did you know that beer is 90% water? That's why it feels so refreshing. The Czech Republic consumes the most beer per capita, with 144 litres annually, topping the list for 26 years. There's an Austrian brewery that has a pool of beer. You're allowed to swim in it. And beer can be timeless because in 2018, a brewery created a beer using yeast from the 1790s. Welcome to Kaleidoscope, where we are positive, daring, different. Ahead of the show, we have controversies today. A controversial film and our controversial visa process, plus to calm our nerves, we go on a boat ride. Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe, follow and like us for more. A huge thank you to our amazing partners on the show, Srilanka Life, CDB and The Daily Morning for being, well, amazing.
CDB Hybrid Leasing. Enjoy exclusive interest rate and much more for hybrids, plug-in hybrids and EV vehicles.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot.
Good news. Sri Lanka exceeds its tax revenue target by 6% for the first quarter of 2024. And the balance of payments surplus hits $1.3 billion by April 2024. A global environmental facility funded project is launched to help Sri Lanka track progress of climate commitments. Pope Francis announces the Vatican's plans to run on solar power with solar panels to power the whole city. Olympic news. Sri Lanka's Tarushi Karunaratne donates her competition kit to the IOC Museum in Lausanne, Switzerland, while pole vaulter Armand Dulpatis breaks the world record for the 9th time in his career.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule.
Last week, the Supreme Court issued an interim order preventing the implementation of the Cabinet decision to grant approval for online visa electronic travel authorization to a private company. The decision comes after massive protests and controversy surrounding the issue and the industry taking the matter to court. Regular guest on our show, Rohan Pethiagoda, even exampled what happens when a tourist tries to apply for a visa in a video that went viral. But despite all the protestations, were all these fears unfounded given the tourism numbers we've seen? Let's ask him, shall we?
Rohan, welcome. This time we are dealing with that new visa processing system initiated by the government in April. What are your main objections?
Primarily, I'm against the lack of transparency in the whole system. This is based on an unsolicited offer that was made by a nebulous entity based in Dubai. It has had no competitive bidding process. It involves every tourist that now comes into Sri Lanka, according to the Parliamentary Committee on Public Finance, according to evidence that they put in the public domain. Every tourist now has to pay more than $25 fee to this offshore entity. We don't know who it belongs to, who the beneficiaries are. This is all very opaque. And for getting no service. The service involved in what they're doing is just accepting the application form from the tourist and giving it to the Department of Immigration and Immigration. They don't do any verification, authentication, nothing. By contract. So this is, to my mind, nothing short of a scam.
So everyone agrees that Sri Lanka needs to attract more tourists, but we also need to ensure we have better national security. Isn't that what this new system is about, or what you're telling me is that there's no verification?
At the outset, what they said was, in the unsolicited proposal, the word security is used 30 times. I checked myself. In the contract that was actually signed with the government, the word has disappeared altogether. Instead, there is a provision that this entity, this company that is providing the so-called service to the government, is not responsible for any data verification or any data authentication. All they do is take the form and give it to the Department of Immigration and Immigration. And for that, they are charging every tourist $25 in so-called service fees and convenience fees, whatever those are. So make what you will of it, but to me it smells highly of fish.
Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau Chairman Chalaka Gajaba, who said recently that we will be issuing free visas to 67 countries. So, I mean, this is an easy process. Isn't that the solution?
That is a nonsensical solution if you think about it. Reason being this, free visa is not the same as visa free. People still have to apply through this nebulous process, pay the convenience fee, the service charge, in order to get the free visa. Free visa only means that the government gets no revenue. This offshore entity will continue to get their share. This is revenue that belongs to the people of Sri Lanka. It's money that should come into the consolidated fund. The Article 148 of the Constitution clearly says that all this money should be under the supervision of Parliament. Parliament has to decide. But yet, this is being siphoned off before it gets into the country, into this offshore Dubai destiny, and Dubai is notoriously opaque. It's still on the European grey list for money laundering.
Now, the government says that tourism arrivals are higher this year, despite this whole convoluted visa processing system. Does that mean that your fears are unfounded?
So what matters in tourism is what is the share of the tourism we are getting out of the tourists who want to come to this region, to India, to Malaysia, Indonesia, the Maldives, and so on. And our battle is to get the maximum number of those tourists coming to this place. Now, if you go to the Maldives, for example, you just give your passport and they let you in. It's the same in Singapore. Most of these countries have made it very easy for tourists to come into their country. In fact, our own national immigration website, when a tourist applies for a visa, they have to select whether they want to first of all go to Azerbaijan or to Malta or to Brazil before Sri Lanka comes in as the 16th option on the list. It's not even visible. This is our own national immigration website. Go and check it. So this is a ridiculous scam that's been perpetrated on the Sri Lankan people.
And now for a peek at the markets this week.
At the Colombo Stock Exchange, the market continued its bear run with the all-share price index and the average daily turnover continuing to drop due to lack of investor interest. Hedge funds have turned bearish on oil for the first time since 2016, citing concerns about a global economic slowdown and prompting reduced demand from China. So far, every single day in August has seen a day-over-day decrease in oil prices, with Brent dropping to an 8-month low of $75 per barrel. Gold prices decreased slightly from all-time highs to $2,381 per ounce as the US dollar strengthens and US bond yields climbed.
Visionary musician and DJ Raja recently held a rave for the wild animals in the African wilderness, where he played the new DJ Afro House live set. Talk about party animals. August is International Day commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. And whether we like it or not, Sri Lanka, with all its tropical paradise feel, has fallen quite heavily into that hole. COVID, for instance, brought with it some of those times when Sri Lanka conducted the forced cremation of Muslims, a practice which is a direct contradiction to Islamic beliefs and traditions. That period was a study in discrimination, bad judgment, and uninformed decision making. A few weeks ago, the stark reality of that black period in our history was taken by the horns when Aman Ashraf released Ottamavati, a powerful reminder of the importance of religious freedom and equal treatment under the law, as well as how Sri Lankan citizens suffered silently while their constitutional rights were violated. The film is currently being screened at various cinemas around the country, and we have Aman Ashraf in the studio with us today. Now, it's a powerful film. It really is a powerful film, but you say this is not a Muslim story. Why?
I think I'm a bit disenchanted with this whole, oh, you're a Muslim, or you're a Tamil, you're a Christian. I think, we're Sri Lankans, and we do have issues in this country. This is just one of the many issues that we face. I think it's time we start acknowledging it as Sri Lankan issues and not really ethnic-oriented issues. And it's only if you approach the problem in that vein that you're able to bring about a holistic solution. So that is why not just myself, but all of us who were involved in the project felt very strongly that this is a Sri Lankan issue.
So you very boldly named individuals in the medical fraternity who have instigated this forced cremation rule. What made you do that?
That was in fact something that the medical professionals who we featured felt very strongly about, because something that they were very disturbed by was the fact that the code of ethics of medical practitioners had been violated by the conduct of these individuals. And governments and politicians, you can always predict them to act in a certain way in their own interests. But for medical professionals, they are held at a far higher standard because they have this code that they must adhere to. And I think it was for that reason that they needed to be held accountable for their actions. And it was for that reason that we elected to name them.
So, Aman, when you were gathering information for this film, what stories stood out for you most?
I mean, obviously there was the story about the infant child who was cremated at just 21 days. I mean, I remember we went to interview that family, and we had to interview the father and the grandfather because the mother was, understandably so, what she said was, I don't think I can control my emotions in front of a camera, and I don't want to, and we respected that. But I think for me personally, there was another case in Kandy, which is also featured in the film, which was the cremation of a mother, and it was her husband and her son whom we interviewed, and the son, gentleman, must have been in his mid-30s. And this is an interview where we're doing nearly 3 years after the incident, but you know, as he recollected everything, he just completely broke down, and that was a really, you know, emotional moment.
Whether we like it or not, Sri Lankans have an ingrained psyche that there are minorities and there is the majority. Now you, as a minority person, do you have hope for Sri Lanka?
Oh yeah, believe it or not. I mean, you know my background. I was a refugee when I came to Colombo. I was refused admission into schools because of that refugee status. I lost my father due to political upheavals in the country. And I still have hope. So what's your excuse?
And may Ottamavati teach us all a lesson.
Thank you.
And we got on a boat to explore the Madu River in Balapitiya, and what a revelation that was. The Madu Ganga is home to some amazing scenery. It leads to an estuary dotted with at least 64 mangrove islets, most of which have sunk. The surviving islets form a complex coastal ecosystem that's home to over 300 species of plants and about 250 vertebrate animals. Glide away spotting an abundance of fauna and flora on this Maduganga wetland declared under the Ramsar Convention in 2003. Historic tomes detail that the first higher ordination ceremony of the Buddhist Amarapura Nikaya was held on a fleet of boats seated on the Maduganga in 1803, and in fact, the Kothdua temple sits on an isolated island on this lake as well. En route, stop by and watch cinnamon being peeled and cinnamon oil being made, the vocation of the inhabitants of the islets on the Madu River. This is Sri Lanka's second largest wetland, and while sitting back and enjoying the cool breezes that may lull you to sleep, or simply gazing in wonder at the wonders of nature, you may just want to contemplate on the beauty of nature that surrounds us in this island we call paradise. This weekend, enjoy nature, step outside, get on a boat, and we'll see you next time.